Is women's time an important pathway between agriculture and nutrition?
So I think it's been fairly well established that gender is an important mediating factor in understanding the links between agriculture and nutrition. And there's some work out there that sort of lays out the different pathways from agriculture and nutrition via gender. And two of those pathways actually have to do specifically with women's time use. And the idea is that because throughout the world we still have social norms that really sort of dictate that women still bear the bulk of that burden of providing care, we're concerned about the extent to which women have the ability or are constrained to provide both the time in terms of quantity as well as the quality of the care for children. And so those are how we think those are linked.
Is women's time taken into account in the Women's Empowerment in Agriculture Index?
So the Women's Empowerment in Agriculture Index is embedded in a bigger population-based survey. And what it does is that in one of the domains it collects is time use. And it does that using a 24-hour recall diary that is an interview process that collects time allocated in a whole range of both productive and reproductive activities at 15-minute intervals. And the module collects both primary and secondary activities. And so if there are simultaneous activities, this survey can capture that.
Okay, could you tell us about your key findings in your latest work on women's time, agriculture and nutrition?
What we wanted to understand is to look at how women's time allocation in both reproductive and productive work affect nutrition outcomes, both for children as well as for women and mothers. So for the moment, we've looked at Bangladesh, Ghana, and Nepal. We will add more countries later on as the data become available. But we're really finding some interesting things. So for example, in Bangladesh, we find that women's time in cooking and care for others actually increase their own dietary diversity, but has no impact on whether children have the minimum diet diversity or a minimum acceptable diet. So suggesting that, being close to the pot, so to speak, actually matters. So when women cook more, they have more dietary diversity, but the link to children's nutrition is not there, or we didn't find it in this data. On the other hand, women's time in productive work actually reduces their own dietary diversity, and this actually speaks to that other sort of pathway between women's time and nutrition and their own nutrition, where we're concerned about energy expenditure and the intensity of time spent in agriculture work. I mean, these are just very preliminary findings, but I think it's really, it's quite interesting and tells us that it's not a straightforward story, and that there could also be trade-offs between women's time in reproductive versus productive work when we're interested in looking at nutrition.